Hello, this is Thomas Metzentine. So, I was reading about shungite, and I thought, how shall I make my own shungite? Shungite, trying to remember, is from somewhere in Eastern Europe or the Russia region, and it's been long known to have healing properties. Peter the Great was supposed to go visit the area and drink from the healing waters and bathe in the healing waters of the area. And people use it. Naringa has it, other people have it. They put it in their water and it absorbs into the water and absorbs from the water and creates a healing elixir. I remember at Crystal Fest I was drawn to some shungite and asked what it was, and they told me a little bit about it and I researched it some more. So shungite is basically a form of carbon, and it happens to have C60 in larger quantities of the larger proportions of that carbon than a lot of other carbons. So, how do we make carbon 60? Carbon 60 is Buckminster fullerene or buckyballs. And it's the same number of carbons as there are points on a soccer ball. So the story goes that I read online, there were these scientists, I don't know, chemists, physicists, something, that were using spectrometry to analyze carbon formations. And they were guessing using the spectrometric graph that these formations had 60 carbon atoms per molecule, approximately. And they asked someone, well, what type of shape could we envision that would have 60 atoms in one shape? And someone in the department that they asked said, well, what you have there, boys, is a soccer ball. So that's where we came up with the idea of Buckminster fullerene, because Buckminster Fuller came up with a lot of geodesic shapes, and one of them was that 60-sided shape, using triangles and pentagrams, just like I guess the soccer ball has. And if you create a globe using triangles and pentagrams, it comes up to having 60 points on it. So there's that carbon 60 that they analyzed using spectrometry, which spectrometry, from what I've determined a little bit of, no expert, but I'd like to learn more, is we analyze the light that bounces off of these materials, and they change the light frequency based upon the number of atoms in the molecule. And so then you get a mix of these different light frequencies depending on what types of molecules are in the mix. And you can see a graph of the approximate averages or whatnot. I don't know how to describe it yet, but a mix, you see the mix of frequencies, and so you can guesstimate that there's probably this many molecules of this number and this many number of this number if you compare it to other groups of molecules and average them out. So that's how people can determine, even if they can't see the actual molecule one at a time, they can determine there might be an average of this type of molecule in the mix. And so there could be carbon 57, nitrogen 3. There could be who knows what type. But it seems to me from what I was reading that the chemists like to think there's some sort of shape that it'll form using those numbers. So what perfect shape can we envision that these numbers will fit into? Maybe I should stop there, or maybe continue. So what I've done today is I've mixed the activated charcoal, which is one way to make C60, and then you can, what did I find online, the scientists, they can vaporize it with a laser that can use electric carbon rods to create light in a projector, and that dust from that will be a preponderance or a large quantity of C60. What else can we do with it? So you could stick it, you could, what they're selling it for $1,200 a gram is what the quote was right now. They use welding equipment and activate the activated charcoal electrically and it becomes C60 that they can test in the lab and then sell for $1,200 a gram. Although the scientists also quoted, I could step it up to be a few cents a gram in the future, but right now there's a high demand for it. I haven't researched it, but I have tried it. I have tried making my own. And there's nothing wrong with eating activated charcoal. It's sold for detoxing purposes and other purposes, and we kind of make our own in the backyard when we burn the fire. So I take I had some more activated charcoal and I had the firewood, and I made my own blender that, and so now I'm electrifying it, and I think I'm making it's carbon 60, but carbon 60 mixed with nitrogen is supposedly a much more potent combination. So I looked up nitrogen and azomite, and someone said, yeah, there's plenty of nitrogen in azomite. Azomite is what my friend told me to add to my diet years ago, and actually add to the garden. And I told that to Linda Emanuel, and she put that in her book. So after she put it in her book, a lot of people I talked to knew about it before they didn't know about it. But Worms Waste sells it. I think it's like 44-pound bag for $50, so really cheap. Go to Worms Way, buy yourself a 44-pound bag, and you get all the minerals you need, supposedly. Some people say 60 mineral elements, so some people say 99 elements. The person I talked to said 99 elements. So the idea is trace minerals in the right balance for life from azomite. And what I do is mix that azomite with the activated charcoal, with the electricity. Now I just added cinnamon because I was thinking, well, why not? I also added acacia gum. Acacia gum is another important gum to know about. My mother has had some health issues, and she talked to Linda Clark recently. And we found out one of our dear friends died. She was elderly, but that's beside the point. Her lungs were filling with fluid and food. And she was laying in, the bed, and people were feeding her, and she was eating it down the wrong tube here and there. And my mom's noticed she's been doing the same. So what happens is they did some sort of scan. They found out the lungs are filling up with food and mucus and whatnot. How do you get rid of that? Well, Linda said, well, you need to stop eating afternoon, juice, lots of juicing, and your body will take care of it. But over time, get your immune system up. How did I get onto that? I don't know, but the cinnamon's good for the immune system. Cinnamon and the acacia gum. The acacia gum is a tree sap. Okay, and what she also said, we also were hearing frankincense is very good for the health. Frankincense, and good for the tooth enamel and whatnot. It's porous. And acacia gum, we bought some online in bulk If anybody wants some, they can ask me, or you can look for it yourself. But I would prefer everyone eats acacia gum. In fact, in America we have lots of acacia trees, but we import it from Sudan. It goes in Coca-Cola, it goes in marshmallows, it goes in most other products. It's a shelf stabilizer, it's an emulsificant. We can mix it with oil and water in a high shear blender and create an antiviral, antibacterial mix that's food grade edible and can be used as a lotion or a soap to cleanse the counters with. Because it's an emulsificant, it preserves the colloid structure of the oil after the oil's been high shear rotored into small particles that explode the virus and bacteria, or they do something to it. The surface tension of the oil supposedly will affect the virus without harming us. Could harm blood cells, but if you don't put it directly in the blood, that's fine. So the emulsificant that I enjoy is called acacia gum, and what it is it's the tree sap that's been. They go ahead and they see this acacia tree in Sudan, and they whack it with a knife or sword or something, and come back later after the sap has started to bleed out and then dried in the sun, and it's a dried hardened tree sap. You can harvest it on. They can either powder it or keep it in these little teardrop granules. They keep the best qualities there, but they send the rest overseas. So yeah, I mean, someone could just create a forest here of acacia trees, these thorn trees, and do their own harvesting. I don't see any reason why not. But it does seem, from my personal use of it, to have an immediate effect of loosening the joints, providing, if there's pain in the body, providing relief. My mother tried it. She had a cold for 3 days, couldn't sleep. If she tried it, she could sleep that night, just a tablespoon of it in some water. It also has no side effects other than lowering cholesterol and creating a full feeling in the stomach, according to the different articles I've read. So anyone who wants to lose weight, anyone who wants to lose their colds or increase their mobility of the joints, seems to be effective. It's also good to put in skin lotions. It already is in beauty products and many food products. Yeah, I would add that to my smoothies or my drinks or whatnot as much as possible. So I've also put that into the activated charcoal mix. I put the cinnamon in there. I'm considering what else to add, but I add the electricity. I think that the coils of the electricity, I know you can make an electromagnetic coil, by coiling the electric wires around iron. Well, there's some iron in there along with other trace elements. I know other rare earth elements can make magnets. So I don't know what it is about that coiling effect, but I do remember when I was a child, I saw that spiral going up, and at the top was my dad in a headdress, and then below were all these other animals, and leading up to the top. And so I've always been interested in that spiral effect. I always just felt like, if you want to meditate, just spin around in a spiral, just connect with your source that way. The spiral galaxies, what else can people think of that's a spiral? So the electricity likes to flow in a spiral, and so does water. When you drop it out of the drain, it spirals, everything's spiraling. It's a natural shape that is conducive to movement and conducive to life.